gentlemen, we're now going to have a display or a run round of the pre-1930 tractors, and as you would appreciate, in pre-1930 they were very basic machines. They were only used really for pulling. There was no hydraulics, no lift, and no the little bits and pieces that we know of today that make life so much easier. There was no satellite steering, no cab, no heater. You sat on there and just imagine on these very basic machines what it would be like sitting on there for 8 to 10 hours a day. This one hasn't got its spuds on the wheels, but if it got spuds or cleats on the wheels, it would be bouncing and rocking about all day long. They really earned the money, although it was better than walking behind Dobbin, I will agree. But that's about where it ends now. We've got the Massey Harris General Purpose here. This is one of the first four-wheel drive tractors that became available, but obviously when everybody else was making two-wheel drive, it left a bit to be desired for another one. This one has the early one with the Hercules 4-cylinder side valve engine in it. Later on we had a larger engine because these were found to be underpowered if it was really doing some heavy work. But as you can see, it's four-wheel drive in just slips me at the moment, but in the pre-1930s to have four-wheel drive, that really was something. If you got one, you paraded up and down in front of the neighbours just to see the red faces. Then we have the Mogul. This is the offering. The 816 never had mudguards on it. The driver sits right next to the wheels. Single cylinder, single speed. It pops away like this. Whatever load you put on the back, it still sounds the same. The exhaust note just doesn't alter until it comes to stalling point, and then you're beyond redemption then. When you stall it, you've got to sort it out. But a beautiful tractor in war, because anybody that was over in France during the First World War and was involved in a gas attack, and there were plenty of those, they shipped them back to Blighty, tractors to help with the drive for more food for the war effort, because we were in great danger of being starved into submission. And they brought these over, they put the military people on them because they thought that would do them good to be out in the fresh air. That was when they was involved in a gas attack. They had the 1020. The 1020 had mudguards on and it was slightly more powerful. As you can see, it's a chain drive to the left-hand wheel, and you've got the differential inside that left-hand wheel which transmits the power straight through to the other wheel and also allows it to turn. A brilliant tractor, as I say, very well. As you would appreciate, in pre-1930, none of these tractors would be as reliable as the modern tractor of today. Now we've got one I know very little about, and it's the Renault, and belongs to Mr. James Coward. From Thorney. Now he always does a brilliant job of his restoration, and as you can see, this is a classic example. Listen how nice and smooth it runs. It's got what was originally the Ford back wheels on it, only we had much deeper cleats on the Renault, and therefore it did a lot more damage on the grassland. But it's a very well respected tractor. You will see that the radiator is behind the engine, which means it keeps the driver warm because the air to the driver. Now when it's a little bit chilly, that would be a big advantage, but if it's on a hot summer's day it wouldn't be quite so good. We now have the Saunderson. This was built at Elstow near Bedford, or part of Bedford now. This one's claim to fame is that King George V, he bought one of these. They made a full trailer as well to go with it. He bought the tractor and the full trailer, or full Bowser, and they ran it by road, as you see there here on the steel wheel, all the way from Bedford to Sandringham. And King George V was trying to set an example to encourage farmers to buy tractors instead of the horses, because we've got very few horses left then, or good horses left. They'd all been confiscated and sent over to France for the war effort, and they were trying to get the tractors on the road. They're doing World War I. Saunderson were the biggest tractor manufacturers that we've got in this country. Quite a well-respected tractor, as I say. That was the British one, but it's small wonder we had to import American tractors in large numbers, because if that was the biggest manufacturer we got in this country, well, we haven't got a home. Now we've got the Austin, a beautiful little tractor. This is made by Herbert Austin, and it was in competition with the Fordson Model F of the period. I have a feeling this one may be a French one. Am I right? It's a French one, because Herbert Austin, he didn't get on too well in this country producing his tractors. They didn't sell too well because they were in great competition with the Fordson, and obviously Fordson was a lot cheaper. This was a better tractor, by the way, but the Fordson was cheaper, and in those days you bought it on price. So he didn't get on, so he upped sticks and he moved the whole lot, factory production methods and everything, over to France, where they produced them. The French one has usually got a little bit of a cowling round the front of the radiator, whereas the English one is just plain straight in there. And when they got to France, well, they sold a lot better, because the French government, I would suspect, looked after their manufacturers as they do now, a lot better than this. Could have a harder job going into France because they would be imported. French would like to produce their own, hence the Austin took off in France, and we re-imported quite a few back into this country. Thank you very much, sir. You can have the belt pulley down this side, which fitted tight in there. It would be now we've got the oil pull, made at LaPorte in America. They had one big factory which made them all sizes. It's the Rumley oil pull, so called because the engine itself, it runs on oil. It's also cooled by oil. We've got a centrifugal pump on the side of the engine which pumps the oil round, and it also has got oil in the transmission to keep it lubricated. Now when you scrap a tractor and they take them to bits, the engine gets knocked about and broken. With the oil pull, with it being oil cooling in there, when these tractors were done, the bores were worn, but the rest of the internals of that engine would be like new, because it's got the oil circulating around all the time. I think I'd right saying the late 30s by Alice Chalmers, and because Rumley's had got a vast amount of dealerships all over America, when Alice Chalmers took them over, they took the dealerships over as well, because prior to that, Alice Chalmers sold their tractors and wares complete from the factory, or correct from the factory. They never sold them through a dealership. Rumley's have got the dealerships, very good dealers. The Rumley tractor really has got a reputation second to none because of the dealers looking after the customers. Next we've got the overtime. This was made by the Waterloo Gasoline and Engine Company. In America it would have been painted green and yellow, and it would have been sold as the Waterloo Boy. When they were imported into this country, we had a multicoloured scheme of red, green and yellow, and it became the overtime. A very well respected tractor once again. They came over in large numbers, and they weren't used so extensively with the ministry as the internationals were, but they were still used by them, and they were used in vast quantities on the bigger farms in this country. Incidentally, the Waterloo Boy itself would have been green and yellow, and it was later taken over by John Deere, and John Deere maintained that colour right up to this day. All John Deere products are green and yellow, apart from the industrial ones. Thank you very much, sir. You can see 2 cylinders, not too sure how many gears we've got. We haven't got the changeable international. We've got the little pinion gear and the big spur gear inside the rear wheels. We've now got Mr. Sturdy with his case cross motor here. Big, heavy tractor. It's made to do a lot of work. It would probably be used for breaking up the prairies in America, and it would also could be used for the lighter jobs, which we would call top work. But they were big, heavy tractors. They were made at racing, and they were very well respected. What we say, a quality tractor of its day. I wanted him to tell us about it, but he's gone shy all of a sudden. When it comes to other people's tractors, he can soon tell us. Thank you, Richard. Right, now we've got the Fordson Model F. This is the later one. Sorry, it's not a late one, it's a later one. It's not one of the first ones, but it's 1923, which is about midway. We've got the little petrol tank on this side for starting. The main tank holds TVO. The first ones would have had a ladder side in here, and in 1917, the first of these tractors came over, and there were 3 of them which were sent straight to the Ministry of Munitions, the MOM tractors. We then had imported 5,000 because the government of the day was so frightened that we were going to run out of food. We wanted tractors desperately, so they guaranteed Henry Ford that they would take and pay for them. They upped the order to 6,000. So we got, in this country, the first 6,000 of these tractors before America even saw one. But they got the publicity going in America, so that when the original order was fulfilled, well, of course, they went like hotcakes in America. And this is the first tractor to be produced on a production line with a unit construction. You'll see there's no chassis on it. Everything is built and bolted to one another right the way through. And we've got a phosphorus bronze worm drive in the back there, with the worm drives the crown wheel for the final gear reduction, and that was not too efficient a way of transmitting power, although we kept it till after the war. And it was a very expensive piece of kit, the crown wheel and the worm drive in the back there. Hence the little standard Ford went straight away. Most of the small farms in this country would have had something to do with one of these. If they hadn't got one themselves, well, the neighbours had got one, and the neighbours provided the tractor power for them. Thank you for bringing it, sir. Thank you very much. Well, that looks like we've got through the ones that wanted to come round the ring for today. Whether we're having another display tomorrow or run round, I'm afraid I can't tell you at the moment. Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I thought we were finished, but we're not. We've got two more customers here that want to have a run around with their tractors. Pity we can't have a few more, but as you see, I've already told you about the Rumley oil pools. This one is a lot bigger one. It's a 2040, which means it's got 20 horsepower on the drawbar, 40 horsepower on the belt. The same applies though. It's oil cooled, it's oil filled, oil for lubrication, and the oil is pumped round the cooling system at the front. Now the exhaust goes up through the middle of that cooling system, and obviously the faster the tractor goes, the more it pulls, the more it pumps, and it pulls the air through that cooling system at the front and creates more cooling. So in other words, it more or less looks after itself. The harder it works, the more it cools. But the same thing as I said this morning, it's made by the Rumley Oil Company of the Port, Indiana. It was later taken over by Alice Chalmers, and Alice Chalmers converted the factory to produce their All Crop 60 combine. And when they got that going, now 250 combines for the first week is alright, but if you think it goes on week after week, where on earth did they sell them all to? I know America is a big place, I know the world's a big place, but 250 combines per week is an awful lot. Yes. We move on then to the Nelson tractor, and as you can see it's another very early four-wheel drive. It's got what we would call, once upon a time, cage wheels on, so Catchpole in this country weren't the first one to invent cage wheels. I don't know whether you ought to keep this thing going because we got a bit close there to stopping it. You will see it's chain driven and not the Reynolds roller chain as that we know of. I've had to walk round because I realised I'm on the same side as the magneto, and these microphones and electronic equipment, they don't like magnetos, it cancels them out. The steering on this is four-wheel steering. See, JCBs have got nothing new. We had four-wheel steering in this day, but the axles, they are on a turntable and they turn together. But the turning circle is still absolutely chronic. Look, that's about full lock. That's about the best he can do. But he couldn't do any more, you see, because the chains would come adrift on the drive to the front and the back axle. If you haven't already seen it, it's well worth going and having a look at those that chain drive, because it's something else. I'd never seen one like it until I'd seen that tractor. We've got a four-cylinder engine there. How many gears we got, I couldn't tell you at the moment. And the driver unusually sits at the side. Well, that's all very well theoretically, because you can see where the half a turn of his neck, where the